that are loaded onto a C-17 and then delivered into Ukraine. It's money that is spent replacing or buying ammunition, refurbishing old equipment that is then loaned or given to Ukraine. And of course, there are no U.S. troops in Ukraine except for those officers that are assigned to the embassy and the Office of Defense Cooperation, whose task is to make sure accountability of every javelin, every artillery round, every set of binoculars. Oh, you can shake your head if you want to. That's a fact. So
why don't you stop pretending that we don't have United States Special Forces on the ground right this second? We don't have CIA agents all over Ukraine right this second. Why don't you just stop?
In this clip, we're going to watch Andrew Wilson and a little bit of Dave Smith absolutely demolish this, I was going to say neocon excited guy with his Ukraine flag on the lapel. They're going to dismantle him for his gaslighting, which is, I mean, there's just no other word for it. Andrew Wilson is already starting. I'm already excited because I would have said the same thing. Like, come, bro, stop. Like, we have people, we have Americans in Ukraine. There have been, and I have to say allegedly because of YouTube, but it's not allegedly, but allegedly we have lost Americans in this Ukraine battle. That continues to go on, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I cannot wait to watch Andrew Wilson say the things that I would love to say if I was on the stage. I'm not, but Andrew Wilson is going to do what he does and mop the floor with these neocon, bloodthirsty, money-hungry people who have disconnected with humanity and just want to keep sending soldiers and all kinds of people to die in unnecessary wars. Let's get right into it.
Pretending, because it's nonsense, and we all know it's nonsense. This is the way, hang on, this is the way it's been going for a long time. And when you talk about, well, Andrew, what we're actually doing is we're spending a whole bunch of money on refurbishing equipment here instead of buying new equipment to send over there. So what? So why are you still spending tons of my money on something I don't care about to send over to a nation which is corrupt as hell? So can we just stop BSing each other for a second? Yes, the United States has boots on the ground there. Yes, we have special forces units there. We have CIA agents there, and we would be fools to pretend we don't.
It's an interesting argumentative style that you had, and you know, I always, when people start calling me names or whatever, then I really, the credibility.
I didn't call you any names, sir. I didn't call you any names.
Okay.
What was the name that I called you?
I think the key is this idea of trying to end the war.
You're actually just offended by tone. You just don't like tone. You know, maybe a little tone policing getting worked in there. Maybe that southern drawl where you try to make yourself sound likable because you have it doesn't work so well on me because you can't gaslight me with this stuff. It's nonsense. Yes, there's boots on the ground there. Yes, there's been boots on the ground there probably since the beginning. Yes, we're spending $100 billion plus on equipment that we then either send over there. And by the way, there's hidden money going over there too. This is such nonsense. Just stop gaslighting the American people. Stop it. We're not stupid. We've seen this on repeat so many times now. So many times.
General, so respond.
The idea of ending the war, of course, is exactly what we would like to do, but it needs to be an end that is sustainable. And I think President Zelensky understands that he can't just sign or accept an end to the war where Russia will wait for us to lose interest, because we always do lose interest, and then they pick right back up with a resumption of the conflict after we have left or turned our back. And so I think it's reasonable to expect the Ukrainians to want some sort of guarantee, whether that's continued aid, continued equipment, or presence. They haven't. I don't know exactly what that looks like. Obviously, I would prefer to see Ukraine in NATO. We get better the day they join NATO. It's not going to happen anytime soon, especially if the United States is not willing to do it. And the Biden administration also is not willing to do it. But how do we end it when you're the partner on the other side, negotiating partner on the other side of the table is Vladimir Putin? I mean, there's no reason to have confidence that they will live up to any agreement because there's nothing in their history. And I do appreciate that Andrew likes my North Florida accent.
Well, but
let me bring in Dave.
can
I want to
just-
bring in Dave. I want to bring in Dave. We've got.
Yeah, I never quite understand this argument that seems to just logically fall apart, that we can't end a war because the war might pick up at some point in the future, and therefore if we don't have a perfect guarantee that, but I mean, what, even if it, I mean, I don't know, I've heard the entire time through this war, including on your show, Piers, that if Putin was successful in Ukraine, then he was going to move on Poland, right? Like, this is what Joe Biden kept saying. This was the official, like, you know, fear mongering of this war. And so if you're telling me that even NATO membership isn't a guarantee, then yes, we never have a perfect guarantee. By the way, you also don't have a guarantee from any government in the history of the world. That doesn't mean that ending a war isn't still a positive. And I just want to go back to what was, brought up initially. The idea that this was a case of failed deterrence, and that if only we had deterred Vladimir Putin sooner, then we could have avoided this whole thing. I mean, let's just kind of quickly overlook the last 20 years of U.S. foreign policy in Europe. We've expanded NATO all the way to Vladimir Putin's borders. We constantly floated out the idea for years that we would include.
Just so you know, when people hear somebody like this guy right here, he can't wait, okay? When he hears Dave Smith say that we expanded NATO to Vladimir Putin's borders, oh my God, you should see the smoke that comes out of their ears. They're like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It's like, calm down. We have. Anyway.
Ukraine at some point give them full membership. We said point blank in 2008 at the Bucharest summit that we were bringing Georgia and Ukraine into NATO before Russia ended up going to war with Georgia there. And then we look, Piers, like we've done this before on the show too, right? But just imagine, if you can, have a little bit of strategic empathy and put yourself in the Russian shoes. If Russia, let's say the Soviet Union had never collapsed, and the Soviet Union had poured $100 million into a Mexican street protest that overthrew a democratically elected government, and they had been saying for years they were going to bring Mexico into their military alliance. And then when the new government came up, they recognized them immediately and started arming them, as Donald Trump foolishly bragged about the other day with Zelensky in the Oval Office. Piers, do you think Americans would feel that was deterrence, or do you think we might view that as a provocation? I mean, like, it's just,
Stop
by
using
the way,
logic,
when
Dave.
Donald
Stop
Trump,
using logic, Dave.
well, look, when
Well, let me ask.
Donald
Well, rather
Trump
than me try and
very quickly,
answer a very logical question, let me get Jake to respond to that.
So the first thing that he said, what is the concern if Russia takes Ukraine? If Russia can't even go 60 kilometers deep and take the city of Pokrovsk, what is the threat to NATO? And it's, yes, absorbing a country of 40 million people, absorbing a country that has $10 trillion of natural resources under the ground. It's the strategic location on the Black Sea. If Russia absorbs Ukraine, they will Russify the people. They will annihilate the Ukrainian identity, turn them into Russians, and then start press ganging them into the military and send them into meat wave attacks against the Baltics, against Poland and the
So that's-
Suwalki
wait, so
Gap.
the fear-
We're
the
trying to
fear is that
prevent
Ukrainians
Russia
could be
from
forced
getting
into a
stronger.
war,
And
forced
I don't
into a meat
care
grinder?
about what Russia thinks or feels. Russia is not a great power. Russia has an economy the same size roughly as Spain. Do you think Spain is a great power
Exactly.
that the United States should respect?
Exactly, dude. Listen. We are in the business of trying to be a world empire, and we're going broke. We're $36 trillion in debt because we can't afford to do it. We've blown $8 trillion in the last 20
Then
years
why
on
is
foreign
Donald Trump
wars.
talking
And
about
you're telling
invading
me-
Greenland? Why is Donald Trump talking about invading
I don't
Panama?
agree with
Why
that.
is Donald Trump talking
Okay,
about
fine.
annexing
Sure.
Canada? Why is he talking about
That
ethnic
has nothing
cleansing
to
in the
do with
Gaza
this
Strip?
conversation.
That
That's it.
is
Okay, see,
empire.
you lost
Total
the
red
point.
herring
You
is
lost
a
the
red
point.
herring. Stay on.
Whoa. You guys, I don't think he should represent MAGA. I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think. Why is Donald Trump talking about ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip? That is MAGA. I thought this was supposed to be the most anti-war administration, but I don't want to get anybody upset. I'm just saying, you know what? Yeah, okay, let me just leave it there. But interesting. Interesting. This guy's a neocon beyond belief. Like, absolutely extraordinary.
Pushing
Topic
for
lit.
America to
So
be
you
a
lost
global
that
empire.
point.
Lit.
And
That's
now
a
you're
total
moving-
red herring. Total red herring. Total red
completely. And
herring.
by the way, I don't
like,
support. I don't
go
support
to-
Donald
go
Is the
Trump.
after
guy
the
who
argument.
smokes and spends all day arguing with strippers and OnlyFans girls going to speak up? I don't know
They
who
make
this
better
guy
arguments
is.
than you do,
General
bro.
Ben Hodges,
It's not my fault
thank
that you
so
have a
much
low
for your
IQ,
service to
lower
this
IQ than
country.
a stripper
You're
and
a
an
hero.
OnlyFans
You're an
girl.
expert. These other guys, I can't take them serious.
Okay, well, I mean, listen, you just couldn't
okay.
respond
You
to
need
my
to, you
point
need to have
at
you
all
need to have
there,
the right
dude.
pedigree
I mean,
in order
you
to make an argument, bro.
Say that you can't take me seriously, but you just completely didn't. You had no response to the argument. Listen, the current estimate I've seen is that Russia's GDP is about $2 trillion a year. Try to keep perspective on this. That is less than a third.
Is Spain a great
of what our
power that
federal-
we should
One
respect? Is
second,
Italy
one
a great
second. Let
power
me-
that we
let me
should
finish the point.
respect?
Well, aren't
Okay,
we
one
all
second.
missing? Okay,
This-
let me
hold
bring
on.
the elephant in the room into the.
Okay, so all right, we already done. So there's that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end, wait, I don't even want to get into the elephant. I don't. So at the end of the day, Andrew Wilson and Dave Smith did a good job, and then this guy, he has nothing but like, look at his face. I mean, what is the makeup here? Like the physiognomy? Like, it's just, I don't know. You know what I mean? Look, hey, people are people, right? But he didn't have to come at Andrew. Oh, all you do is argue with OnlyFans models, okay? And they make better arguments than you. First of all, that's good. I love that. That was pretty good. I'm better than you. Have you been there? Have you been there? I mean, like, that's the kind of attitude I'm getting from dude. Y'all let me know what you think. I see you guys at the next one. Bye.